Hello everyone, and welcome to your video about the FOIL method. No, we're not going to talk about tinfoil. We're still talking about math. So this should look pretty simple to you now. We've done a lot of practice with this. This is the distributive property that we would need to use, and we would take this 5 and we would distribute it over everything in parentheses. 5 times 6x is 30x. 5 times -7 is -35. So that would be how we go about solving that. Well, we're going to use the exact same principle of distribution when we are multiplying binomials. Binomials? You might be wondering, what the heck is a binomial? Well, a binomial is just a math expression in parentheses that has two terms. Like you think bicycles have 2 tires. Well, binomials have 2 terms. So it might be 3x plus 4 is a binomial because there's 2 terms. Or 19x minus 7. Or -y minus a. Those are 2 terms. They're all binomials. And what we want to do is we want to have some practice multiplying binomials. So let's say that we have a binomial that is 3x plus 6, and we are going to multiply it by another binomial, maybe -2x plus 8. So what we are going to do is, following the example given to us by our simple distributive properties, we're going to take this 3x and we're going to distribute it over everything in parentheses. So we would get, let me see, 3x times -2x will give me -6x squared. And then 3x times 8 would give me 24x. And then when I'm done with that, then I take the second term of my binomial and I distribute that over everything in parentheses. So I would have 6 times -2x, which would give me -12x, and 6 times 8, which is 48. Now that I have all of this laid out, now I can go through and I can look for like terms. And I have an x here and I have an x here. Those are the only terms that can be combined. So my final answer is -6x squared plus these two combined, 24x minus 12x, which leaves me with 12x, plus 48, because that just comes down there like that. We have now successfully multiplied a pair of binomials. Let's do another one. Let's try this one. Let's say that we have -5x minus 3, and we're going to multiply that by 10x plus 12. Okay? So our first step is to take the first term of our binomial and to distribute it over both terms in the second set of parentheses. So that would be -5x times 10x would be -50x squared. And -5x times +12 would be, what is that going to be, -60x? Once we're done with that, we now move to the second term in our binomial. Remember, this is really a -3, right? Because we could change that into plus a negative like that. So we're going to distribute our -3 over the same two terms. -3 times 10x gives us a -30x. And -3 times +12 gives us a -36. So that's what I've done so far. My next step is to combine the like terms. I have a -60 here that I can combine with that -30 there. So my final answer is -50x squared minus 90x minus 36. Lots of minuses in this one, so you got to watch those negative signs quite carefully. Okay, so you might be wondering, why are we calling this the FOIL method? Well, let me write out another set of binomials. Let's do 3x minus 4 times 2x plus 6. Okay? So our first step would be to go with our first term and to multiply it over both terms over here. Our second step would be to take the second term, which is a -4, and multiply that over here, right? So first we do these two, then we do these two. All right, well, if you are a fan of acronyms, you will like this. The FOIL method stands for first, outer, inner, and last. And the reason that they're called that is because the first thing that we multiply are our two first terms. The first term in this binomial times the first term in that binomial. That's the first. The second one we do is the first term over here times the last term over here. In other words, we take the two outer terms. Then we switch to go to this term now. We do this term times the first term, which are the two inner terms. And then finally we do the last term times the last term, which is last. Now, the FOIL method is really, I don't know, it got popular, I think, because multiplying binomials is popular. But hopefully you're beginning to see the pattern here where you go through each one of these terms and multiply it by each one of these terms. So I could give you a much longer set of polynomials, that is, something in parentheses with just many steps. So I could give you 2x minus 7 plus 3m in parentheses times x squared plus 2x minus 6. These are not binomials. This is a trinomial, right? Because there's 3 terms, so we have a trinomial times a trinomial. We could have a trinomial times a quadnomial, or we could have a septnomial times a binomial. It could be any combination of things, but you're always going to follow the same basic pattern. You start with the first term, and you multiply it times each successive term in the second parentheses. Then you switch to the second term, and you multiply that by each term in the second set of parentheses. And then you work on your third term and you multiply that by each set of parentheses. And even though I wasn't planning to do it, I think that we'll just go ahead and solve this because it just looks darn fun, doesn't it? So 2x times x squared would give you 2x cubed. 2x times 2x would give you 4x squared. 2x times -6 would give you -12x. So that is the first chunk. Then you would continue with the second chunk. Remember, this is a -7. So we would have -7 times x squared would be -7x squared. -7 times 2x is -14x. And -7 times -6 is a +42. But you were still not done, because now you have a third term. So you would do 3m times x squared, and you would get 3mx squared. 3m times 2x would give you 6mx. Ooh, and I'm almost going to run out of room. 3m times -6 will give you a -18m. Our next step is to combine like terms. So let's look for like terms. Here's a -7x squared. Here's a 4x squared. So we can combine those two. Let's just do one step at a time. 2x cubed plus 4x plus negative 7x gives me a negative 3x squared. Sorry, I should have said 4x squared plus negative 7x squared gives me a negative 3x squared. I have another set of like terms here with my x's. So a negative 12x plus a negative 14x gives me a negative 26x. I don't have anything to combine with that. I don't have any other plain numbers, and I can't combine any of those. So now I just get to write the rest. 42 plus 3mx squared plus 6mx plus negative 18m. There, I have now multiplied my two trinomials. So technically, you can only use FOIL if you're multiplying binomials, but you see it's the same sort of pattern over and over again. It is often referred to in textbooks and by teachers as the FOIL method. That's why I wanted to make sure that you knew that terminology. All right, well, congratulations. Now you know how to multiply polynomials of any size.